Okay, I'd like to welcome Paul Dunn from VALID, so Victorian Advocacy League for Individuals with a Disability. So Paul works in the community development team for VALID, and he includes the coordination of Leading in Community project. Leading in Community supports the development of local peer action groups in 8 areas across Victoria. We'll hear from 2 of those people from the peer action groups tonight and their experience of community inclusion. So over to you, Paul, and the team, and we look forward to hearing all about the wonderful work that you're doing with Leading in the Community. So thank you.
Thanks for that, Beck, and it's great to be here with you all. We've done some really lovely work with La Trobe Council over the years with Joe, and so it's good to see Joe again and to revisit some of that stuff. I'll talk a very little bit about some of that later on. But just to let you know that the peer action groups are just small groups of local people with disabilities who are working together and really, trying to set up leadership opportunities in their local community, with the focus on changing that community so that it's more inclusive. And one of our key partners is Neighbourhood Houses, and we also have strong partnerships with local government, with local councils as well. And we've seen some really exciting work emerge across the 8 areas where we're working. It's been hard under the restrictions of COVID, but thankfully we picked up David Hanson, who's with us here tonight. He's got a wonderful background in film, and he's done some terrific work with us, as well as his excellent project development skills and project leadership. So that's been a real boom for us during the last 2 years, when it's been our original plan was to be in neighbourhood houses with our groups, and to be doing work, person to person on the ground. And we're only now just starting to realise some of the benefits of that face-to-face work, and as we've moved out of the COVID restrictions. So now, just to set the scene, we've got 3 people who are going to read some stories tonight, some personal stories about their inclusion in community. So we've called those stories Community Inclusion in Me. So we've got Chris Bodley, who's with the Moe Peer Action Group, and also the Gippsland Working Together group. So we've got Georgia Green, who's also with Moe Peer Action Group and the Gippsland Working Together group. We call it the Gippsland Working Together group because it brings together a number of groups that are of people that are doing self-advocacy work in their local community. Rachel Walters was going to be here to present, but like many other people across Victoria, she's sick. So I'll read her little story that she's prepared to do. There's very short stories, and then Luke Nelson is here as well from the Daniel Darabin Peer Action Group, and who's doing fabulous work with Watsonia Neighbourhood House and Jaka Jaka Community Centre. So it's great to have Luke here to be able to share some of that with us. And then I'll just do a little summary presentation at the end about community inclusion and you, and just show some examples of the work that we're doing with some photographs. So and it's great. Mark Thompson's here from Ballarat. We've got another of our peer action groups, and he ain't speaking tonight, but at least he's here to see what we're up to. Keep an eye on us. So thank you, Mark, for popping in. So I might just share the screen. And where are those stories? Here I go. Watch me muck this up. Here we go. The pulse rate staying calm. So we'll go, Chris is first. So what we'll do is I'll just navigate the screen. Chris will read his story, and then George will, I'll read Rachel's, and George will read, and we'll turn the share story off for Luke, because Luke's going to ad lib it, and we'll see how he goes, see how well he's remembered it. So I don't want to do that. I don't want to put him under the pump by seeing how well he's remembered the story. So Chris, if you want to start, Go for it, my friend, go.
I Was One of the Lucky Ones by Chris Bodley. My story of inclusion is a story about getting on the train at Traralgon Station. It starts with me arriving at the station and feeling a little anxious because I did not know how to buy a ticket. Now, when I get anxious, I talk a little bit to imaginary people, and this helps to settle me down. So here I was, not knowing what to do and feeling worried when the station attendant came up to me and asked if I was okay and offered help. First, she showed me where the ticket office was. Then she showed me how to use the stairs, and then she stamped my ticket for me because she could see I was having trouble. And she told me that it might be best if I didn't talk out loud. I think she was looking out for me because she wanted to make sure I would be safe and that people wouldn't pick on me. She was friendly to me and spoke in a nice, kind way. So, what are my messages to you? Being kind goes a long way. We all need to feel that people really want you to be there. Think about how you help people to be there. Be prepared to step up to the plate. Sometimes you need to do something a little bit extra to make sure people feel welcome and included.
Thank you, Chris. You did a great job. And that picks up on a lot of stuff that Sam has spoken about, didn't it? It's really about, really connecting with people and sometimes just getting a bit out of your comfort zone and doing that little bit extra to make sure that people, are able to be included in stuff that we often take for granted. We can talk a little bit about this towards the end, but I'll just quickly read Rachel's story. So Rachel's story was called Having a Seat at the Table by Rachel Walters. Our self-advocacy group, New Wave, is planning on doing something with the hospitals, especially trying to get them to listen to people with all sorts of disability. But at some hospitals, people are not listening as much to people as they do at other hospitals. I do a lot of things in the community, so I see this a lot. Some communities are not listening. Some communities are listening. Trying to get them to listen to us is the challenge. It helps sometimes when you're a part of a committee that helps an organisation to include people. I'm on the Community Voices Committee for my local hospital in Warragul. I help them to learn what to expect with people with disabilities, people with all types of disability. For example, they need to know that you need to speak to the person and not the support worker, and to use easy English. Warragul Hospital is learning this stuff. They are not perfect, but they are encouraging people with disabilities to come to the hospital. This is how I help with inclusion. So what are Rachel's messages to you? Trust us. Our lived experience can help you to be more inclusive. Listen to us. Reach out and let's talk about what might be possible. Work with us. Get us involved in your planning. New Wave Self-Advocacy is here to help. It's a lovely story, and Rachel does wonderful work in her community and she's very active. And again, a lot of the messages that Sam spoke about for us in terms of how we connect with people are picked up in Rachel's story. Georgia. Okay. Over to you. So now you're going to read off the screen or just from your paper?
Can I read off the screen, please?
Okay, so just, concentrate on the words and
Do you want me to introduce myself?
Yeah, just go, yep.
They know me by my name, Georgia. I've got to read it down. Hold on. Let me start again. Can you read the heading and I'll read on? please.
Yeah, we just concentrate. They know me by my name, by Georgia Green. Go, Georgia.
I have a very active life in my community. I like to get involved with things. I have support from Molly Lifestyles and Interchange, which has helped me to do more things in the community. I volunteer at I volunteer at St. Vinny's and the Salvation Army op shop in Maui. I used to serve breakfast club at Albert Street Primary School, and I go to the let me think. And I go to church at the Salvation Army every Sunday morning. I very close in Kilda, and sometimes I go to the football in Melbourne. I like to I like to do a where am I up to?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Just follow the cursor.
Sorry. I like to try and do new things. Last month I went on a helicopter ride, and early in the year I went surfing. I tried surfing. Every Friday night I go to the Maui RSL with my friends. It is a place I love. People there, they know me by my name. They say hello to me, and when I leave, they say goodbye. At the end of the night, they make sure I get on the bus so I can get home safely. I love making friends, and I love being able to give to people and make a difference in their life. I made bracelets for people. I pray for people when I think they need a bit of help, and I contact people to plan what we can do together. Okay.
So what is your message?
Sorry, can you please?
So what is the message?
So what is your message to you? Community is all about sharing ideas and interests. Fun and friendship is important. Giving to others Giving to others help you to be a part of your community.
Well done. Good on
Thanks.
you.
Thanks.
You're a bit nervous, but you did well. Very good.
Yeah.
Thank you, Georgia. That's great. So we'll come back to these stories in a just
Sure.
get rid of this share.
Just jump in. What I'll do is we have a conversation, Paul. I think if I've missed anything, just give us a.
Do you want me to? Let's do an interview. I'll have. What about? I'll just go back to the share screen. I just want to be able to pick up on the themes that we spoke about. So
yeah. Let's do an interview style.
All right. What have I done here?
Don't know.
Where's the thing? Okay, Luke. So tell us, Luke, about getting involved at the neighbourhood house.
Okay. Before we moved to the neighbourhood house for the peer action group, I had no idea what a neighbourhood house was. I didn't know what they did. I didn't know they even existed. But we went there to do a fantastic flicks screening, which is a series of films made by and for people with disabilities, right? And then the manager of the Wataini Neighbourhood House, Lucy Holden, said to us, would you like to hold your monthly meetings here? Which we said yes, obviously. And then we did a lot of other things with the neighbourhood house. But one of the things that was great for me was I got to learn about what a neighbourhood house was and what a neighbourhood house does. Now, I was lucky enough to be offered the chance to join the neighbourhood house board, which is lucky for me because I've never sat on a board within a community organisation. I've sat on a load of boards for disability organisations, but never in a community organisation. But what worried me about being involved with that community or with a community organisation is how I would be perceived. How would they include people with disabilities? And what I was lucky enough to do was to be given the chance to give my advice on upgrades to the neighbourhood house and to be included in making decisions. Paul?
Yeah, no, that's pretty damn good, Luke. So,
So, by the way, guys, I'm sorry if I go a bit quick. So just shout out if just shout out if I'm going a bit too quick.
And tell us about how they've included you. What are the sorts of things that the neighbourhood house has done, Luke?
Okay, so they've let me sit on their board, or invited me to sit on their board. They've included me in days that they've put on. They've included the whole peer action group, actually, not just me. They've included the whole peer action group in activities, in being involved in the community. And also, I've been able to do presentations with the neighbourhood house. But also, one thing that works really well with the community house and the peer action group model is it's a space where the community development work can really grow and really flourish, and really we can all work together.
That's great. And there's a couple of 3-dot points here. Can you remember what the messages were that you wanted to convey to people?
Yeah, so the message I want to give to you is don't be afraid to ask questions. And organisations that can help you include people and encourage and engage with people with disabilities, and don't stick to the sorry Paul, I can't read the last one.
Yeah, sorry. So don't stick to the script.
Don't stick to the script. And also, can I just put one thing in there that I just really want to say is look at the person first and look at the individual first. Don't look at the disability, because we're all individuals. We all have the right to be included in society the best we can. So what I can say is, if you, community organisations, would like to include us, we're here to be included. Thank you very much for your time.
Good on you, Luke.
Back to you, Paul.
We can have, where's the community development team gone? So Joe and Beck.
Sorry, our internet was not playing nicely and we didn't want to lose the recording, so we just flicked our camera off. It was
yeah, that's okay.
Had a bit of a delay in it, so I'm hoping that it should be working now.
We can do. I've got some PowerPoint slides, but which to just do a bit of, reflect on the stories. But if anybody wants to ask some questions before we do that, we can throw to some questions.
Go for it, Paul. And thank you everyone for your presentations as well. It was wonderful to hear from you all. I think, yeah, Libby's just said the same. So thanks, Libby. Does anyone else have any questions that they'd like to ask Paul or the group?
I got one for Luke, and I guess some of Rachel's points there about how being inclusive and encouraging people with disabilities to be part of the organisation or a board or a committee can value add to that organisation or that committee or that hospital or whatever your organisation is. I like the fact that you can value add to those organisations by being inclusive. Luke, do you want to speak to that a little bit?
Yeah, sure, Dave. So I think the more that organisations include us, it can be better for that organisation, but also can be better for the disability community, because if you include people with disabilities in your organisation, then it makes it it can be more accessible, and you can talk to people with disabilities that you work with, so that when you do something that's for the disability community, you've actually done the right thing and included us, but also been in consultation with the people that you best want to support or engage with. So I think if you have people with disabilities on your board, it can be a great asset to your organisation.
That's good, Luke. And just in terms of Rachel's story, David, I think I've always thought a really important message is that in involving people with disabilities, it should make your organisation more fun, more meaningful, a stronger organisation, a better organisation, and that's the goal. And I'll show some examples of that in a sec when I go to the slides that how that happens, I think. But I think, if Lucy from the Neighbourhood House Manager was here tonight, she'd be saying that it's opened up the Neighbourhood House in all sorts of exciting and interesting ways, and the partnership we have with them has really added value, and we've done some really interesting work there, so which I'll show soon. So, anyone else want to comment or ask a question before we go to the slides? And Beck or Joe, you're going to have to give me those. You're going to have to share those slides because I don't know where they are. So,
I think Mark has his.
Mark, go for it, Mark. Yep. Well, Beck tries to find the slides I sent through.
Being part of a board or that also opens up your community that you belong to. It just opens up doorways.
150% agree, Mark. 150% agree. Yep.
It just opens up so many doors.
And also builds skill knowledge base, I think. Yeah. Especially for me, like I look at my stuff I've learned from the Neighbourhood House, and especially what they've taught me, I go, great opportunity.
Yeah, skills. And Libby's got her hand up there. Libby, did you want to ask something or make a comment?
I did. I wanted to ask Luke, thank you very much, Luke, for explaining about the neighbourhood houses. You said peer action group. I'm a total novice in this. I've come tonight to be just the beginning of learning. So thanks for having me. When you say peer action group, is that a generic term all the way through the community, or is that something that you have a peer action group in one particular neighbourhood house? And how does that work?
Okay, so Paul, I'll have to tag team with Paul.
Okay.
It's a generic thing. Like we've got was it eight yep. Peer action groups across 8 areas.
Yep.
And we've got it's not just a term I've coined, if you like. It's yep. something that we've worked on with a whole team of people at the organisation that me and Paul and David work for. Did you want to pick up on that, Paul?
Yeah, just it's we'd like it to be more of a generic term, Libby.
Absolutely.
So we'd like to see more peer action groups rolled out there across Victoria. But yeah, it's for a specific project called Leading in Community, which was funded through an NDIS type project, and it's at the moment, it's in 8 areas, and we would certainly like to see it expanded to include other areas, and really hopefully the NDIS sees it as a model that is, something that can be expanded to other areas. So.
Yeah. Well, thanks, Luke and Paul. That was where I was sort of heading, just gut feeling. It seemed to me like a really positive thing, and it would be great to be able to recreate that all the way through the community.
Oh, look, it's great. It's great fun to be involved. It's a great opportunity to be involved in this kind of work. I
can imagine. Well, thank you. That's all from me.
Well, did you get that slide?
Yeah. I just didn't want to interrupt you, Paul.
No. Well, look, let's show you some of the fun. Let's have a look.
Let's see if I can do this.
This is my dodgy effort at trying to put together a slide presentation that looks reasonable. So.
Sorry, I'm just sharing that now. Okay.
Can we go up to the top? Yeah. So I just wanted to do some stuff just to, you know, I like, you know, words that begin with the same letter. So we've got there that, you know, I think what comes out in the stories is that, you know, it's that exploring the personal is really important, and connecting with people, you know, at a level that, which is respectful, and which enables you then to, you know, explore common interests that you share and ideas that you share, values that you share, which are the basis for relationship and friendship. And I think that's a really important element of, you know, of inclusion, is being able to do that. The next point is, you know, and there's all sorts of ways that Sam explained, you know, about how that can be done. But the next point is about, you know, partnering. Partnership is so important. And you know, we've found with the peer action groups that, you know, our capacity to partner with councils and to partner with, you know, local arts organisations and local neighbourhood houses opens us up to all sorts of possibilities, and to design and, you know, projects, to be included in events and activities, to design new things, you know, working in partnership with the neighbourhood houses to actually develop new projects and events. And it's very exciting work. So the partnership is really important. And I think for community organisations, one of the really important things is being able to identify people and organisations that you can partner with that will open up a mainstream community organisation, you know, to new opportunities and to opportunities to include people with disabilities, and, you know, to expand the way they do things. That's the trick. And I think partnership builds trust and it builds confidence. And it builds some predictability. That's another P word. You know, you actually can get a sense of what might be possible, what you can do together, which leads to that next one, is about planning. You know, planning together is really important. So what's the planning? Really, planning is about a conversation. That's essentially what a plan is. You know, it's about bringing organisations and people together to think about, you know, what the issues are that people face, and to work out ways to you know, come up with creative solutions, so that people can feel more included in their community. And it can happen on a real personal level, like Chris's story about the encounter at the train station. I mean, that's just a very specific personal example of Chris encountering a difficulty, and somebody having the kindness, as Chris says, to reach out, to step up to the plate, were Chris's words, and to make sure that, you know, he was able to use that the train safely and securely, and to navigate his way onto the train, and also to access the ticketing machine. But some of the planning that we do through the peer action groups and the partnering is more formal. It's our peer action group, which has a place and presence in community, because it's based at the neighbourhood houses, or it's based in a community, and it starts to, you know, draw on the lived experience of people with disabilities, to guide planning in a local community. And we've done some of that work with Latrobe City Council, with Joe. And I'll show you some examples of that in a sec. And then the last one there is about, you know, creating and building possibility. And Luke's point about don't stick to the script, you know, you just be creative, because really what we're talking about here and all of these things is a conversation. It's about having the courage and the commitment to having conversations with people with disabilities and the organisations that represent people with disabilities about what might be possible. And, you know, to build on the difference and diversity that people with disabilities bring to community life, and to see that as an exciting opportunity to create and design new projects and events, and as well as include people into existing projects and programs and activities and events. So I think it's a it's a really, the creative possibilities around inclusion, and when you have, creative dialogue and conversation going on through your planning negotiations and planning conversations is really exciting. And we've seen some great possibilities emerge from the work we've done in the peer action groups. And if I can find out how to get the next slide deck down to the next slide. You're sharing it, aren't you, Joe? Beck, can you go down to the next slide? Yeah. So Luke, here's the Banyule Darebin Peer Action Group, and there's a power of stuff that we've done with Watsonia Neighbourhood House. It's there's Luke at a sustainability day on the left there talking, and Lucy in the middle, the manager of the Watsonia Neighbourhood House, and that was an event around a fire, an open fire. I haven't got the open fire of the smoke in shot there, but it was a lovely session where, and Luke's talking about.
So that's the event for the plastic straws.
No, that's the transport one.
Transport one, okay.
But yep. What was the plastic straws one?
Okay, we had an event to talk about how important plastic straws are for people with disabilities, and the term that we put out there was, one of the things I'll never forget is suck it. That was probably the best catchphrase I'll ever hear of my career. Because plastic straws were very important.
Yeah, so there was an issue it was the sustainability day around the environment. So it was the use of about single-use plastics, and
yes, and
what was happening with some people with disabilities. I was saying, well, if they banned single-use plastics in cafes and restaurants across Banyule, then people are not going to be able to have a drink, basically. Some people. So, and it was a really useful discussion. But this one here was actually about disability and access to public transport, and how that we linked that to an environmental issue, which was great. So, and just quickly, some of the other things that have happened at Banyule and Darebin Peer Action Group, and the work with, they should say Jaka Community Centre and Watsonia Neighbourhood House, but we've got a filmmaking workshop there. So we're really pushing the idea of people being able to tell their stories. So that was a filmmaking workshop called Tales of the North. That was pre-COVID, and then during COVID, we did a lot of filmmaking work. David is here tonight, as I said, did a beautiful thing called Travels in a Lockdown World. So the 1 hour walk that people got in Melbourne, they went out and took photographs, and we interviewed them on Zoom, and they were able to talk about that experience of the 1 hour walk and how that they connected to places in the community that they loved and valued. And stories came out of that about, people being included in community and how they're in community, how they're included. The photo down the bottom is there's Luke holding a Leading in Community sign. That's the name of our project, and we've set up a hashtag Leading in Community. Who's there with you, Luke?
So that's Kate Freites. That's a local federal MP for Banyule.
Yep, and Lucy and Justine, another PAG member.
Yep.
So, and that's about issues around access to Watsonia Station. So we're looking to. You were involved with the Watsonia Town Square development too, weren't you, Luke?
That's right. I got an opportunity to sit on the committee regarding that for council, and it was a really good experience because I got to give my knowledge and experience and feedback on what they needed for people with disabilities, like sensory and stuff like that, disability bathrooms. Yes, it was a wonderful opportunity.
Yeah, and so what's happening, this partnership with the Neighbourhood House is opening the Neighbourhood House up to all sorts of different things. And they have, Lucy has wonderful connections in the community with local politicians and local councillors. And it's really provides us with a great base to launch our activism, I suppose, is what you might call it. And then over here on the right, we've got the a partnership with Plenty Valley FM, a radio show called Airwaves Access that we've David has been absolutely instrumental in getting that happening. And it's a terrific thing that we're trying to get going through community radio stations. And ideally, you know, we'd love to have 8 community radio stations working with our 8 local PAGs. We'd produce a show and put it on those community radio stations every month would be fantastic. So the next slide, Beck. This is the Geelong Peer Action Group, the I Am Sculpture Project. So what happened in Geelong, the Peer Action Group in Geelong said, well, there's all these bollards that are on the foreshore, which are a tourist attraction, but none of them represent disability. So, so they lobbied council and the local MP and said, you know, we want some bollards that represent people with disabilities. And of course, the council said, well, we can't do that because they've got a copyright on them, and we can't develop any more bollards. So, so they said, well, what are we going to do? So, so then what came out of that was a better initiative, I think, and it was a public sculpture project, which was led and guided by people with disabilities. It was a partnership between the Geelong PAG, the council, Art Gusto, a disability arts organisation down in Geelong, and it's you know, as you can see, it's a damn big sculpture, and it says I am, and it was a terrific outcome for the for that community. And for the Geelong PAG, it was really just a fabulous stuff. They got quite a big sum of money from the local MP, the state government, and commissioned a tender process. So sculptors from all over Australia submitted ideas, and this is what they came up with. So, and it's a transport that can move that sculpture. I don't know that it moves out of Geelong, but it can move around Geelong. So we can do all sorts of stuff with it. Next slide, Beck. This was about a street crossing in Pakenham, very dangerous road that from a shopping precinct to the local train station. And there's been a lot of work that peer action groups have done around, and other self-advocacy groups have done around, you know, getting safer street crossings. And I know the Moe Life Skills has done some good work down in Moe in relation to this issue, these sorts of issues. So here's one at Pakenham, and it's a terrific. It was a terrific project. We had local GPs, cafes got behind it, and again, money was raised through council to see the street crossing put in, and it's made a difference to not only the lives of people with disabilities, but lots of other people that can now cross that street safely. Next slide. And this is the Moe Gippsland working together, Moe PAG. And I just put a few photos up here. Joe might remember some of these things, but here's the fantastic flicks, as Luke mentioned, so short films made by and about people with disabilities. This was a screening we actually had at the High Street Community Hub. And Dan, your ex-local mayor and councillor, really helped us out with that. He provided the outdoor screen, and really got it really set up, really curated it really well for us, and we had a lovely evening there at in April, going back a few years ago, of the outdoor screening there. And what's been great in the last few years is that we got films from a set of partner organisations to have the that was the set of films that were fantastic flicks. But in the last few years, and again with David's support, we've been able to start to develop our own films now about our experience, our stories, and we're starting to see those now be included in the fantastic flick screenings, which was fantastic. The below that is a project we did with Monash Gallery of Art. They came down and run a photography workshop using old photographic techniques at Latrobe Regional Gallery. And that was, again, about storytelling. People were asked to bring a precious object into that workshop, and then to tell a story about it, and we captured that through old photographic techniques. So that's a cyanotype print there. You lay something on the paper, the sun shines down on it, and we get a shadow, and they're beautiful pieces of work. We did a beautiful project with the Clayton Peer Action Group and Monash Gallery of Art. I could have showed you some photos from that one as well. Again, the same process, people encouraging people to tell their stories and to centre those stories in powerful ways in community. The project at Monash Gallery of Art was culminated in an exhibition and at the gallery, which was just fabulous. So you can see Chris and Georgia, because we started with the radio stuff with Gippsland FM, and that's Chris and Georgia when we went down, had to go at the studio one time, but and that came from somebody in the PAG saying, I want to get on the radio. So and that's what we've done. And you can access those radio shows on the Valid website. I think that's right, isn't it, David? Is that right?
Yes.
Yeah. So and then down below here, this was an event we ran around employment, and access to employment that with in partnership with Joe and the team at La Trobe. It was and that was a huge day. We had people playing the new disability AFL football, and that's jeepers, isn't that terrible? He's got the Collingwood top on and all, and I've forgotten he's from Disability Sport and Rec, and they came down and ran hours of come and tries at schools and down at the community centre, and we had a community development forum, and we had the breakfast around employment and disability as well. So the partnership with the Trobe and Joe has been really good. And last slide, I think, comes up now. You'll be happy with me here, Mark. Here's someone from Bernadette. There's somebody Mark's been working with very closely at the City of Ballarat, and it's just a bit of a quote that. A snapshot of a longer quote, but I think it really sums it up in terms of inclusion. So I'll just read it to you. Peer action groups fill what would otherwise be a gap in local services and opportunities, where participants are free to decide on actions with limited organisational constraints and with a focus on social connection. These groups are supported to build their individual and collective capacity to take action that will make a difference for the community and to advocate for their own and others' needs. Underpinned by the principle of inclusion, the peer action groups place the needs of the group members at the centre of what they do and how they do it. It's more than nothing about us without us. These groups are setting the agenda, raising their voices, and encouraging all of us to join them in taking action. It's a terrific quote that we were so happy to get from Bernadette. And it's a tribute to Mark and his wonderful partnership that he has with the council and the work that he's done in that Ballarat community for a long time. So, I guess our message is that, there are people with disabilities out there. They're organising in groups, and we're available to have conversations with you about the possibilities associated with inclusion and community development activity. So, I hope that sort of is something that, inspires you to think creatively about inclusion, but also to think about how we might connect to do some exciting work together. That's it from me.
And I've got to run too, because I've got a support worker just here.
And you've got to organise your birthday. Happy birthday.
No, it's already organised. Don't jinx me. Don't jinx me.
Happy birthday, Luke.
Happy birthday, Luke. Thank you so much, Luke.
Thank you very much. It's funny because the restaurant that we booked actually closed down today.
Happy birthday, Luke.
Thank you.
That's COVID for you.
Yeah. No, closed down for good.
Oh, closed down for good. Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Yeah. The RSL won't close down for good, so stick to that.
Don't. Stay out.
Yeah. That's us.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, everyone. That was amazing. Yeah, so great to hear all your stories, and thank you to Paul as well and David for chipping in. And we've just got a couple of questions in the chat. So Libby's wanting to know, have people done much in developing social enterprise projects that lend themselves to employment opportunities for people with various ranges of abilities? Where people can work together in an enterprise setting and get paid, develop a career, perhaps not only voluntary projects.
We've had some thoughts about it, but yeah, there was some thoughts early days about a fellow in Frankston who does beautiful artwork and very interested in T-shirt design. That's about as far as we've got at the moment. Our biggest issue at the moment is trying to hold on to our funding. So that's going to be, yeah, we're we've put in an expression of interest for our funding to be continued for 2 years until the next sort of funding round comes around. So, and who knows, some of those things might be possibilities once the funding is shored up.
Thanks so much, Paul. And we just had another question from Suzanne, who's a student studying her Diploma of Community Services. And she's wanting to know if there's any PAGs in the city of Casey.
Sort of. There's Pakenham and Cranbourne. So the Pakenham PAG is in a bit of a hiatus. So we've sort of morphed over into Cranbourne. There's Pakenham in Cranbourne or Cardinia. It's in Casey or Cardinia. Pakenham's in Casey, isn't it, I think? Is that right? Yeah, I'm getting me Casey's and me Cardinias mixed up here. So yeah.
Shaking your head.
Yeah. So I think so
it's close by.
Yeah, there's a lot of work in Cardinia. So there's some really good work in Cardinia. If Pakenham's in Cardinia, so
but there's one at Dandenong too. M works at Dandenong and Frankston.
Yeah, we're trying not to expand to Dandenong at the moment. We're just trying to keep, so don't expand too much, Mark. Well, we're stretching ourselves thin. So yeah, we have a worker that works across they're doing some work at the factory in Cardinia Shire. I think it's Cardinia Shire. So it's like a precinct there that has a number of things: community radio, library, a leisure centre, an arts centre. It's great. So that would be just if you're interested, that would be ideal for you to connect up with Anne and see where it gets you. Who was that? That was Sharon, was it? That was Susan. Who was that? Who was interested?
Yeah, it was Susan or Suzanne.
It's me, yeah, Suzanne. Yep. Thank you. I haven't got my camera on because I've got COVID and I look pretty ordinary. But thank you so much. I really find it extremely inspiring just hearing from everybody, sharing your stories.
Don't worry, Suzanne. I haven't got COVID. And I look ordinary. So,
well
you should
said.
worry about that.
Well said.
That's Paul Thornton.
Thank you so much. Does anyone else have any questions? I think Libby's got a hand up.
I do. Only a quick one. All the way through, the reason I want to talk about social enterprises, I want to ask, is there anyone in the Trobe Valley that I could even come and speak with for just say half an hour? In 1991, I established a recycled textiles and clothing factory in Mornington, and I employed people with disabilities to set that factory up, and it was absolutely astounding. I was amazed at the range of abilities and successes that we had in that factory. One of the workers went on to be the head sorter at the Smith family, and her only problem was that if she was given $2 and she had to take 50 cents away from it, she couldn't work out change of $1.50. That was just one little problem. But she also had the most incredible ability to hold a range of like 41 different sorting areas. And it opened my eyes a lot to untapped potential. I know that when you go, Georgia was speaking about working at St. Vinny's and the op shops, I imagine. Yep. I really do believe that we've still, even though it's 30 years later, I think there is an option to start the same model of recycled industry up here, even though we've got the big industries, you know, St Vincent's and the charities, something that is for our people in the Latrobe Valley. May not have legs, but who do I go and speak with to at least even present what I did, see if it still works or what people think about it now? Is there any option for doing that and for getting it to be a social enterprise, which obviously there'd need to be funding, I understand would be a hard thing. But I look at it as being something that would be perfectly matched to people of a range of abilities, all abilities.
I guess Latrobe Valley Enterprises would be.
Yeah, Latrobe, yeah, that's what I thought.
So they do recycling paper, I think. They do make grounds maintenance, and that they're a social enterprise as far as I'm aware. They're fairly big, they're in Morwell. But if you're looking to set something up or speak to someone about sort of a separate social enterprise, possibly contacting our business development team for some insights. Yeah, we can get you the information if you like, Libby.
That's a great start. I mean, obviously at first you need to look at the, you know, the market reach and then the people as well. So yeah, I think the business development team,
yeah, would be the way to go as a starting point. They might be able to point you in the right direction or give you some information.
Okay, all right then. Thank you very much. Thank you.
No worries.
Sorry, Joe just muted me. Does anyone else have any questions before we wrap up?
Can I just say, Beck, just to Georgia and Chris, you know, thanks so much. You practiced your reading, and you know, it's a big thing to read in front of people, and I think you did a really great job. And I really appreciate the time you put in, and from you know, my perspective here, it's I really value it, and I think your stories are fabulous. So
yeah, agree. You both did amazing. Thank you so much for joining us tonight. Yeah, it's so inspiring. So thank you. Is there anyone else that wanted to add anything or ask anything before we clock off for the night?
Sorry, one more. Thanks so much to you two for giving us the opportunity to do it. You know, it was really, we really appreciate it. It was, but to Beck and Joe, I think it's probably a thought of us, and to David, and I know David's had to go offline. And, you know, but he started it, and I've just been dragged in at the last little bit. So, so yeah, I really appreciate that you've given us that opportunity and thought of us, and we hope we've done justice to your trust in us. So yeah.
No, you've all done wonderful. So yeah, we'll get this recording finalised and then be able to share it with groups as well. So